Today I'm going to be making a specialized form of vise insert that's specifically designed for filing bevels on hardware. Having the work held at an angle puts you in a much more comfortable position while you're filing the bevel, and the narrow jaws allows you to file around small pieces without having to constantly reposition it in the vise. I'm starting off with a 5/8 square bar. This is just a mild steel bar. There's no need to use spring steel on this. The jaws move so little that any kind of steel will do. The first thing I need to do is rough in the offset, which is going to form the base of the short jaw. The short jaw is on the bottom. It faces the bench. The other jaw is longer because it's on top and has to wrap around the short jaw. The first heat is basically just to define the location of that shoulder. The dividers I'm using are just firm joint dividers, and they get knocked out of position very easily, so I usually try to set them up with some kind of a standard measurement that's really easy to take. This time I'm just using the distance between the edge of the hardy hole and the end of the anvil. That way it's really quick and easy to check to see if the caliper setting is still right. I need to be able to set up this vise insert anywhere in the vise, so I can't make it too long, otherwise it won't fit over top of the screw box. So the distance in my vise from the top of the jaws to the top of the screw box is roughly 4.5 inches. So I have a caliper setting here that's set for 7. So if I keep the body of the vise insert in that range, I'll be a safe distance away from everything. So I'm just going to continue forging the body of the vise insert until I get close to the 7-inch mark, and then I'm going to forge the offset for the front jaw. Here I have a caliper setting set up for 3.5 inches, and I'm going to line that mark up at the center of the anvil, and I'm going to start fullering the spring. Take your time hammering out the spring. You want to make sure that the surface is very smooth. You don't want to leave any deep gouge marks or sharp cuts that'll cause stress points and cause the spring to fail. For the final pass on the spring, I take a very low heat and work very systematically over the entire surface to make sure that everything gets hammered out. Here I'm transferring the length of the lower jaw to the upper jaw. Now I know that the upper jaw has to be longer, so I'm going to add about 1/2 inch to this measurement, and then I'll cut it from the bar. Now that the main body and the spring of the vise insert is done, I can start forging out the jaws. I'm going to start by forging out the lower jaw and bend it into position so that I don't get confused later on. The lower jaw fits up against the solid jaw of the vise, up against the bench, and it gets bent towards the bench. So I'm going to be bending this towards the offset that I created. It's also important to try to forge this jaw as flat as possible because it's going to be the base that I'm going to use to forge the upper jaw. So if it's crooked, the upper jaw will be crooked. Now I'm going to bend the spring and get the shoulders of both jaws to line up. If everything lines up okay, I can take another heat and straighten everything else up. If I have to make any adjustments to get stuff to line up, then I would do it now before moving on. Now I'm ready to forge the upper jaw around the lower jaw. I set this up in the fire so that the upper jaw is directly in the fire and the lower jaw is facing out of the fire so that it basically didn't get hot at all. That way I can hammer up against the lower jaw to shape the upper jaw. I stepped away from the anvil here for a second to place everything in the vise and really define the shape of the upper jaw. With it clamped in the vise, I was able to get a nice tight bend. At the anvil, it was just teeter-tottering around. So that's basically all the forging. Now it's just cleaning it up and adjusting the jaws. To adjust the jaws, I've taken a light heat on the spring and I've clamped the jaws tight with a pair of tongs. Then I'm using a narrow chisel to wedge open the base of the body of the vise insert. That gap that I'm creating is going to allow the jaws to clamp down first before the body of the vise insert gets pressed together. Once I have that gap set up, I can just wedge open the jaws to fit the piece of steel that I'm using. This type of vise insert doesn't have a very big range. You pretty much need to have one set up for each gauge of sheet metal that you're using. So here I've cleaned up the jaws a little bit and I'm testing it out. I want to make sure that the jaws hold the work securely before I do any final finishing on this piece. Of course, these vise inserts can be made to suit whatever it is you're working on, but the basic idea is to keep the work angled so you're filing flat, and then that allows you to not only see what you're doing, but it makes it very easy to file a very, very consistent bevel. Hi, I'm Dennis and thanks for watching. If you like this video, by all means give it a thumbs up. If you want to support this channel, you have a couple of options to do that. The first thing, of course, is to just subscribe. Second, if you have ideas or photographs of things you'd like to see on this channel, send them along. I'll turn them into a video. If you want to lend your financial support to this channel, you have a couple of options there. You can go to my channel homepage and click on the options that you see in the banner. So thank you for your support, and with your help, I'll be doing this for some time to come. We'll see you next time.